Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, we will build this generative string art patch in Max. So before we start patching, maybe we should clarify what we are trying to achieve here. We have 2 points that are moving in 2D space. It could also be 3D, but I will stick to 2D for now. And these points are animated and doing some kind of periodic motion and in regular intervals. I will just do it on every frame, but we could also do it independently of frame rate. We will draw a line between those 2 points. And then, even though the points are moving, the lines will stay where they were initially drawn. And slowly, line after line, this generative pattern will emerge. So this tutorial consists of 4 parts. The first one is creating the moving points. The second one is then drawing the lines between the points. The third one is trying to make it look pretty. And the fourth one is getting creative, like changing the animation or changing the path of the points. So I will start with a jit.world object as my rendering context and a jit.p window so we can monitor what we're doing. So let's dive in with the first part. I'm going to create a jit.gl. No, that's wrong. Jit.gl, where is it? Grid shape for our first point. Let's say this is a sphere. Let's for now give it the color red, so it looks like this. And scale, I don't know, something small. Well, look at that. Now I would like to animate this point. So to do this, I will use a what am I doing? Jit.time object. So this is just giving me the time from when it was created. So I want to turn this number that's getting bigger and bigger into a circular motion. So to do this, we can use sine and cosine. So first I will create a pack object, position, then initialize it with floats. And then I can use a sine object, feed this one into the sine and use it to animate the x position. So it's going from left to right, from -1 to 1 on the x position. And to create the full circle, we then also need the cosine and plug this into our y position. I will also create a camera so we can move a bit further away, because now we don't see what's happening. So let's say 005. Yeah, now this looks better. Then I will also create a message to control how fast we're moving and plug this in here. So you can see we can change the speed here. And for now, the circle or the motion is always on the x-axis and on the y-axis from -1 to 1. So I guess we want to change that sooner or later. So I can just multiply both of these that are ranging from -1 to 1 by some number to change the radius. So now nothing changed. We're multiplying it by 1. Now I can make the radius bigger. So it's going from -2 to 2, but I also can, of course, make it smaller from -0.5 to 0.5. So this is the first point. I'm going to encapsulate this. Let's call it animation point A. And to get our second point, I can just duplicate this, call it animation point B. And to distinguish them, let's change the color here from red to green. So now we have 2 points. And I can change the animation individually. So for the second part, we want to get the positions of the points and then draw lines in between them. So to get the position, I think I will do this a bit differently. So I will just create a list out of those 2 numbers here. And I can say copy, paste, replace. Then I have to change this B. So in both of these subpackages, it's just a list of these 2 numbers. Because then I can use a send object. So let's call this send point A. Send point B. Then I need another pack object here. I will initialize this with floats. And then I can plug this in here and plug this one in here. And now, as you can see, I made everything more complicated and nothing changed. So why did I do this? So I can take these 2 positions. So here I get X position and Y position for point A. Here I get X position and Y position for point B. And then I can plug it into my algorithm that is then drawing the lines. I also got an error here. Okay, not relevant anymore. So how can we draw the line now? So there's this object jit.gl.mesh. And this object takes a matrix in and can then draw a line with the points inside of this, of the jit matrix that we're feeding it. So to do this, I have to say draw mode lines. I will, for now, we can say that the line width is just 1. I think we will change that later. For now, we can also say that the color is just pure white. Yeah. Then we need a matrix to tell the jit.gl.mesh the positions. So jit.matrix. We need 2 planes because we have an X position and a Y position. If you transfer this to 3D, of course, you would need 3 planes. So you can also include the Z position. Let's make this float 32. And I don't know, let's say that the dimension is 3000. And the way that this works now is that this draw mode lines will always take 2 consecutive points and then draw lines between them. So it will draw a line between point 0 and 1. It will draw a line between point 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7 and so on. So we always need to feed both points into the matrix, one after the other, and then this jit.gl.mesh will draw a line between them. So to do this, I will use a pack object with the command set cell, so we can access individual cells within the matrix. First, we have to tell the matrix which cells we want to access, and then we have to tell it which values we want to assign here. Then we need a trigger list bang object. So first we will plug in the list and then we will bang the matrix so we can then get an output from it. And now if I'm plugging in the index and the X and Y position, we will draw a line between two consecutive points. So we can take a look at the contents of this matrix with the jit.cellBlock. Then we specify plane -1, which means that we'll see all of them. So then I can say at point 0, we have 0.6 and 2.3 in the X position. Then I bang it. Oh, that's wrong. They belong in here, so I will initialize it again. So I can say 0.6, 2.3 at position 0. Now you can see that the second point it is at 0, 0, so it's going to this point. But if I'm then reassigning the second point to something different, you can see that we're now drawing a line from 0.6 and 2.3 to 0.6 and 0.7. So all we have to do now is in regular intervals use point A as the first point B as the second point, and yeah, draw them in. So to do this, I will use a zl.reg object, which can take in a list in the right inlet and store it there. And when this object gets banged, it's putting out the list. So you can see here, we're getting the list in constantly, but only if I bang it here, I get an output. And that's exactly what we want. Then I will use a counter object from 0 to the maximum number of cells that we have here. So 0 to 299. Use a jit.bang object, so we'll bang this on every frame. Now you can see it's counting upwards. So what do I need then? So for every first number, so to say, I want to bang this, and for every second number I want to bang this. So I will take a modulo 2 operator. So what this does is it gives me, or we have a constant stream of zeros and ones. So if it's divisible by 2, we get a 0. If it's not divisible by 2, we get a 1. Then I can take this select object. And again, if it's divisible by 0, no, sorry, if it's, it won't be divisible by 0. If it's divisible by 2, we will get a bang out here. If it's not divisible by 2, we get a bang out here. So every second count will give us this number, and the one before will give us this number. So, but we also need to bang this one here too, and we also need to increment the cells here. So to do this, I will create a trigger. No, what do we need exactly? So we need to bang this one here and send the integer out for our pack object and also for this object. Okay, so we can see already something is happening, but it doesn't seem to be right. So what is the problem here? Let's also create a clear message so we can clear what's inside here. Okay, so the red ball, which is this one, seems to be working, but the green one doesn't work. So why is that? Ah, okay, I see. This is the mistake I made. The problem is I only plugged this one in here and this one in here, but both of them are giving me a list with X and Y values. So both of them need to be plugged in here. And now it should be working. Look at that. On every consecutive frame, we're banging this one here. And I can, of course, change the values here. So this would be the radius. I can make this slower and the radius smaller, clear it again. Clear it again, and now you can see this string art emerging. I will tidy this up a bit here. So again, what are we doing? We are creating numbers from 0 to the dimension of our matrix. First, we're looking, is it an even number or is it an odd number? When it's an even number, we're getting the first point. When it's an odd number, we're getting the second point. Then we are incrementing the cell here. And then, of course, we are also banging it, so we get an output here. And then this pretty shape emerges. So now we can, I mean, this is already looking pretty good, but we can also look into ways to improve this. For example, we could change the color. So I will create a second matrix. Use a jit.gen. Let's call this, give it a title, color. Also maybe use a P window so we can see what's coming out of here. Maybe we can try, I mean, when we use the normalized coordinates, this is what we're getting out. So from 0 to 1, but we could plug this into a RGB to HSL. So we can create a vector that is representing the HSL values, but it's exactly the other way around. So we're using numbers from 0 to 1 to create different hues. And then the saturation and the brightness will be 0.5. And now we have this rainbow color, and I can plug it in here to the color array, bang this, and now you can see we're getting rainbow colors. We could also use a pass effect. So this effect is then applied to the whole image that is rendered. So let's use a bloom effect. So fx name, what was it called? Bloom HQ, I think. Okay, something's happening. But we have to play with the values a bit. So it's the amplitude, the threshold. Maybe also look into the gamma correction. Where is it? Where is it? Why can't I find it? Okay, it doesn't seem to be here. Okay, this is a bit too much. Maybe let's go down with the amplitude and also with the threshold. And we could also, to make it look better, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, but I just remembered that we could blend enable 1 and blend, I don't know, let's try alpha add. So nothing is happening. Why is nothing happening? Blend enable 1, alpha add. Because I think we're just getting out 3 values and alpha is probably 0. So let's try to, so this concat combines this first vector that's coming in here with a second vector that we can specify here. So in this case, I would just say, I don't know, 0.5 for our alpha value. And now we have RGB and here the alpha value coming out. Now maybe something like 0.25 and the amplitude can be something like 0.1. Then I can transform them. So, well, isn't that pretty? We could also change the width here. Make it a bit thinner. Then I have to bang this again. Yeah. And then, yeah, I guess we can play around with the values. It always looks cool if the values for the speed of this jit.time aren't pretty multiples of each other. So 2 and 1 doesn't look as good, for example, as something irregular like, I don't know, 3.4 and 2.3. Because then with every rotation, this whole pattern will shift by a certain amount. Yeah, but you can play around with these values, find something that you like. I think now we can come to part 4, getting creative. So the first thing I would do is trying to change the path. So here we're creating circles. Oh, what happened here? Okay. Here we're creating circles, but we could, for example, just say that point A is not moving in a circle, but it's just going on a straight line. So I will say y is 0 and this is going on a straight line. Let's make this a bit bigger. We can see what happens now. So point A is just moving from left to right and point B is doing the circle, and this also creates an interesting result. Let's change this a bit. And always be sure to clear it so you can see the new pattern emerging. Or what also could be interesting, maybe raising the cosine that's coming here to power of 2. So it's just this upper part of the circle. Yeah, this also looks very nice. I mean, I guess there's not much fun in looking at this with me together, so I will end this tutorial now and you can build this yourself and play around with the values. So there's a lot of potential here to get some very interesting looking results. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.